But I want to introduce Shannon. As soon as I picked him up at the airport, man, he was happy-go-lucky. We hit it off right away. It was a real good experience, you know. When I picked him up at the airport, he's like, golly, man, we're in the country. You know, and I was like, we're not in the country yet. We was about to go to Arnoldville. So. But man, I heard his speaker tapes, and he's real good. Y'all are in for a treat. He does the deal. I love his energy. I love his vibe. And I'm looking forward to it. Shannon.
Yeah, I got to pull a Chad here. Hold on one second. I need room when I speak. I don't know if the stage is going to hold me. We'll see. Especially after all that bread pudding. But my name's Shannon. I'm an alcoholic. Man, it's good to be here. And, you know, I say that when I go visit places, and I don't mean it half the time. But I'm kidding. But I mean it. You guys, this is unbelievable. The vibe here, the fellowship of the Spirit, the love. I mean, I've been walking around the hotel, and people have actually said, like, good morning. You know, those are fighting words in New Jersey. So those are, you know, like, it's just the love. And thank you, Ashley. Thank you, committee. Thank you, James. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for creating a space where I feel safe. I feel at home here. Sam, you gave me a hug this morning, and she said, I think you said I was handsome. No, she said, I feel your safeness. And I went, oh, thank you. You guys make me feel safe here. Caleb, the best host ever, picked us up from the airport. Thank you for coming to get us. And he asked a cute, innocent question. He said, so you guys get paid to speak? And I said, no, but damn. No. We do, but though, don't we? Yeah. We do. You can't put a monetary value on what we do. And I'm not a speaker by any stretch. I don't ever want to pretend to be. One of the most profound things I heard this weekend, and it was a good reminder for me, is I'm not the messenger. And I can get caught up in that. I can get nervous, and I'll be up in the room, and Nicoletta, my partner, knows, like, you know, as soon as I start to get nervous, what am I going to, I know that that's not me. That's the stage character that wants you to like me, that wants you to love me, and ultimately that's the voice that's been, I think, has been me since I was a little boy. But Caleb, no, we don't get paid. But Caleb was awesome. I'm going to see if I'm going to butcher this or not. And Buddha? I was hoping I know. Say it. Buddha? Buddha. You got to say it with your nose? Is that? Buddha. The N is silent, right? All right. Well, anyway. We stopped and got some on the way over to Bobby's house. He's like, hold on. He caught over 4 lanes, hopped a me. He's like, we got to stop somewhere real quick. And we got some of that stuff that starts with a B. And it was amazing. It was really good. But here's the funny part about it all. So I'm going, man, what's in this? And he's driving. He wouldn't say anything. He just, right? I'm like, what's in it? And he's like, remember? And you're like, just pork and stuff. And he just kept, and I want to know what in stuff is. So, text me when I get home and let me know what in stuff is. So, and thank you for everyone being here today. You guys are the real partiers. You saw it through. Yeah, so it's nice. Sometimes we have empathy for the guy or gal who has to speak on the Sunday because no one's left. And you guys stuck around, so thank you. So I'm not talking to myself here this morning because I do plenty of that. My sobriety date is February 14th, 2012. It is not my first sobriety date. I've been in and out of our fellowship for, I think, about a quarter of a century. I've been in and out of our fellowship. And like Chad did a great job. Is Hannah here, by the way? Hannah. Woo, your story. So Chad and I were talking. We're thinking about leaving AA and joining Al-Anon because you guys know how to party over there. Like, we pee our pants and fall down, you know what I mean? You're like lighthouse is on fire and like, so thank you for sharing that, Hannah. That was awesome. What was the other, burning the house down. What was the other one? What was it? High speed chase, but there was something. Hiding behind the pillar in the bar. Like, I'm like, man, I want to go to Al-Anon. Like, so thank you for sharing that. You know, that was awesome. And Linda and Clint and everybody that got up here that was nervous. I heard a lot of people say, I don't want to do this. And I don't either, by the way. I really don't. I want to be invited. I just don't want to come. It's always been my MO. I want to be invited to the party. I just don't want to go, but just invite me. And you would think with my extrovert personality that I like doing, and I really don't. Because I tackle with this small self. I tackle with the ego, I don't want this to become my identity. I don't want to think I'm the one that's carrying this message here today. So what I do is I say, God, please put the love in my heart and the words in my mouth. And most importantly, what my sponsor says all the time is he says, just go have fun. Just go have fun. Half the people aren't paying attention anyway, Shannon. So they're thinking about themselves. So don't sweat it. So, I grew up, you might hear the accent. It's not, I'm from a small city in, upstate New York. Actually, I've been lying since I've been sober. Well, no. No, but I say I'm from Rochester, and ironically, Chad, when he was telling his story last night, and I've heard Chad speak quite a few times, I'm actually from a suburb outside of Rochester. I did live in Rochester for many years, but I grew up in a small town that had one blinking light, and the name of the town was Springwater, New York. There's no gangsters coming from Springwater, New York. That's like I lived in a very small rural area, like Chad, and then I ended up migrating to the city because that's where all the fun was. And but I grew up in upstate New York, and I don't have what do I got? 2 hours? Is that what you said? I'm not going to get into a big story about childhood. I heard it all weekend, but I'm no different than anybody else here. I grew up with a lot of terror in my life. I grew up with a lot of abuse. I grew up in a very broken home. I'm 55 years old. I still don't know where my father is. I don't know if he's alive or dead. And you hear a lot of speakers will say this, that doesn't make me alcoholic, right? Because it doesn't, right? But I'll tell you, I got here with a lot of grave and emotional mental disorders. I got, you grow up with the childhood that I had, and it's not any worse than anybody else's, but when you grow up with that type of environment where life is scary, because life is scary even without that childhood. If anybody, I heard everybody talk this weekend about the ego. My ego at 5 years old was already formulating how life should be. Chad talked about that when he made a deal with his brain, right? It's the flight or flight. It's the pain or pleasure. I like this. I don't like that. And, my mind's, I could have used a rum and coke in the kindergarten. I'm not even kidding. I was already living up here. I felt separate at like 5, 6 years old. It was like everybody on the playground and me. That's the way I've always felt. And the irony is when I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, I feel like that 5-year-old again. That's why I thank the people, and I'm here today because of the kindness of strangers. I thank the people that would come up to me that know that were properly armed with the facts about themselves, and they would come up to me and they would shake my hand and say, welcome. Thank you for that. So I've always felt less than. I've always felt weird. People, that's nothing original. We've been hearing that stuff since we were in, brand new in AA. And I would say things like, you ever hear people talk about the hole in their soul? You ever hear that when people talk about the hole in their soul? After you start to wake up, you realize that was a construct too. God doesn't make me with a hole in my soul. It was an imaginary one my ego dug. And I spent the majority of my life trying to fill an imaginary hole that didn't exist. It almost killed me. So I feel separate. I feel less than. I feel weird. I feel icky. And again, it's like, I heard somebody say this years ago that, he walked around spending his whole existence comparing his insides with everyone else's outsides. And I heard that the first time. I was like, damn, that's spot on. And no matter what you put on the outside, I always felt broken and I always felt weird. And I didn't want to go to school because there was like all other kids there, And I didn't want to go home either because it was violent and it was scary. And so what the hell do you do? And I love what Bill says. Bill says that he discovered alcohol. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but most people don't discover alcohol. They discover planets. They discover like distant lands. We're the only people that use that verb, and we don't even think about it. Drinking, most people don't call it a drinking career. Well, we do. And those words just pass by us. But you guys know what I'm talking about. I've heard all the beautiful speakers this weekend. You guys discovered booze too. It was like, what is this? Oh my God. I say this quite often, and I mean it. Nicoletta can attest to it. My memory is shot. If you asked me what I had for dinner Friday, I couldn't tell you. But I can tell you the exact magic that I felt from this elixir and the effects produced by alcohol when I was 12 years old. I can tell you to this T, it was magic. It changed the course of my existence. It was amazing. And like everybody else you've heard say over the years, I could breathe for the first time. I could exhale. It made me feel amazing. I was in the back of a 79 Monte Carlo. That's how much memory I have with it. I'm not even kidding. I was in the back of my buddy's 79 Monte Carlo when we were at a carnival, and they were passing these, they don't even make, Stroh's beer. Anybody remember Stroh's beer? I don't know if they have that in Louisiana with Cajun in it. But, and we were in the back of this car, and I'm like 12 years old, and I'm in the back seat, and, they're passing these beers around, and here's the thing, it talks about in Bill's story, I saw all the warnings. I did. I saw my stepfathers beat the hell out of my mother. They would get drunk and beat my mom and beat us and beat the canary. They would beat, no one was safe in our house. It was insane in our home. It was insane. And I remember I would hear my stepfather come home and you'd hear the tires on the gravel and I'd panic. I needed a drink. And he would come in, and you never know who he was going to show up. And he was that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Sometimes he'd drink, and he'd get happy, and he'd get excited, and he'd put me on his knee, and he'd give me money, and he'd play a little game where he'd take a quarter out of my ear, and he'd hand it to me, and I'd get hope and resolve like my dad. He's back, and then other times he would come home, and my mom would be in the corner with a broken jaw, and the ambulance would come, and I'd get you just never knew the uncertainty that was, and when you live in that environment for as long as I did, it's just awful. On top of the fact that I got to live up here too. It's like I got no relief. I got no reprieve until I discovered booze. And when I discovered booze in the back of that car, I don't know if it was the first one. I don't know if it was halfway down the second one. I don't know what. But we all know that it happened, right? The magic happened. About halfway down, all of a sudden, I heard Robert Plant sound like it was like, I'm like, brother, turn the music up. I want a break dance. I'm serious. It was like, man, music goes off in my head when I drink that might not even be playing. I'm like, whoa, what's that? It just does something to me. It does that it doesn't do the average temperate drinker. It does. It doesn't do that. I've talked to people. I'm like, so I've actually talked to tell me about when you drink, and they're like, what? They don't even, what are you talking about? But anyway, so I remember that day, this shy, abused, introverted, self-centered child, let's call it like it is, I'm 12. I had this drink with my friends in the back of this car, and I wanted to go down to the carnival. It made me who I've always wanted to be. I wanted to high five the high school quarterback, and I wanted to talk to a girl. It gave me courage. It did something that it doesn't do to normal people. But I thought it did that to everyone. It doesn't. And I chased that feeling, and I chased that illusion until the wheels came off many years later, and I'm in an apartment in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm dying. I'm dying. You know, we talk about what God can do for us, what we can't do for ourselves. So can vodka. And it did for many years until it almost killed me. No, I'm not going to. I do want to share. For some reason, I'm just getting pulled to talk about, really, you know, because Chad talked about it, and I love listening to Chad. He really talked a lot about the insanity of the first drink, you know, and that's really where I'm kind of being moved today. I've been in out of AA, like I said, when I first got up here, for a long time, for about a quarter of a century, right? And I didn't know what I was up against. I didn't understand alcoholism. I thought that sobriety treated what I had. I thought if I just went to enough meetings and hung out with the winners and not the, you know, all that nonsense that we hear. And I'm not here to judge the people that say that. I'm really not, mostly. No, I'm really not. I'm really not. Listen, there's several ways to get to the top of the mountain, and if your way works, beautiful. I mean that. Just don't sponsor my daughter if she comes here 20 years from now. That's all. And I don't mean that as a judgment, or I really don't. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I'm an alcoholic. The mother's an alcoholic. My ex, I don't know if it's hereditary. I've heard different opinions. Some people say it is. It gets passed on. I don't know, but I have a funny feeling that the cards are stacked against her. And I will say this from the bottom of my heart: if she ever comes to AA, if she becomes one of us, I hope she comes here. I hope she comes to a place like Louisiana where there's a message and there's a solution that has depth and weight and there's love. Please don't keep telling her to keep coming back. You'll kill my daughter. Please do what you did for me here this weekend. Love her. Walk her home. Like Don Pritt said, his name was brought up. He comes up. I've never been to a Fellowship of the Spirit conference where that gentleman's name has not come up, and rightly so. He started the damn thing. Give someone your time. That's the most important thing we can give anyone here is our time. And Sam did it this weekend, and Ashley, and all of you guys. Alice, like everyone here, just thank you for giving me your time. It means so much to me. I'm going to take you home with me. I really am. There's a karmic effect that happens in the world. There's a shift that takes place when I come to a place like this and get fed. My daughter's going to benefit from me being here this weekend with you guys. So thank you. So, I'm in and out of AA for years, and you know, and a lot like Chad was saying, you know, I went to a lot of meetings, you know, and I would hear things like, you know, and if you feel like drinking, double up on your meetings, you know. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to 19 a day now. All right, so let me, you know, but again, and here's the thing: what I'm about to go on this little thing, I don't regret any of it. I really don't. I don't regret any of it. All of it was divinely crafted. I had to go through all of it. I had to wring out every resource, every wrong thing to do to finally get to a place where on February 13th, the night before my sobriety date, in 2012, I was surrendered. I had to go through it all. I had to, oh yeah, we were asking Caleb too, so how's the AA around here? You know, we want to see if how we were going to judge you guys or not. And he lit right up. He's like, oh man, you know, he started, like, you could tell, like, within a sentence that he's the guy that's in the book. And he's like, oh, and I'm picking up and Tommy, the other, I'm sponsoring him, and we go to this thing, and all I heard was the 3 sides of the triangle as we're driving back. And I was like, yes. So thank you. Thank you. So I'm in and out of AA, and I don't know what I got. I don't know what I'm up against. I really don't. I don't understand alcoholism. For years, in and out, I mean, and it's so funny, like, you see, the damn 12 steps are on the wall, right? And the 12 traditions, and sometimes even the 12 concepts are on a wall, and people are talking about this big book, and it sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher to me. You guys remember Charlie Brown's teacher, the older, like, I would hear, like, fire, brimstone, and then you'd say God or 12 steps of the book, and it was just, I didn't even hear it. I'm serious, I didn't even hear it, and because I was still being driven by this condition of self. I wasn't done drinking yet. And you know, and I've heard people share that when they got to AA, there was nobody carrying the message, there was no big books around. I can't say that. I just wasn't interested. You know, I would walk into a meeting and I'd look over there and these people were like happy, joyous, and free, and they're talking about these 12 stairs or whatever the hell it is, and you know, this blue weird book, and you know, and I'm like, and then I look over to the left, and there's guys over here playing tonk and spades and hitting out all the newcomers, and I'm like, you know, I want to go, AA is amazing. Yeah, gratitude. And I did that for years. And you know what the irony is? Even though with all the joking and the humor around it all, I really wanted to stay sober. I really did. I didn't want to drink again. If you drank the way that I drank, I mean, it's fun. Remember when it was fun? And it used to be amazing. I've talked about that one experience in the back of my buddy's car, and that went on for a long time, and then the consequences started to come, and I have an ego, and I have a mind that will just blot it out to the best of it and pretend it's not happening, live in Candyland. It wasn't that big of a deal. Everybody gets a felony on a Tuesday, And, and I would just go through all these things, and, and I just lived in a narrative. I just lived in a construct, and I'm burning my life to the ground early on. I'm homeless. I'm 16, 17 years old. I'm going to jail already. My family loves me to death, but they can't allow me in the home because they're scared. They don't know who's coming home. And, I think the worst part about this illness is that somebody mentioned it, I think it was you this weekend, where we can't differentiate the true from the false. I can't see the truth. It's the old adage, I can't see the picture when I'm in the frame. I can't see what alcohol's doing to me. I can only see what it's doing for me. And it's killing everybody around me. It's killing everybody around me, including myself. And so I go to AA. First I go to a rehab because I'm homeless. So, right, you got to go to rehab. I love rehabs back in the day because I could eat and sleep and stuff. And so I would go to a rehab and I would come into AA with that internal and external war cry. This time it's going to be, yeah. And it wasn't. It was almost like I was kind of coming to the fellowship just to kind of get a tune-up for my next run. And I didn't know any of this. Everything I'm telling you in hindsight. I didn't understand any of this. And I would come in and hit on your girls and eat your cookies and smoke your cigarettes and raise my hand and hijack the meeting for 8 minutes. And, because I got something to say. I remember the first time I heard a speaker. I went to Vegas. I think it was State Line or Derelicts. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But I went to the retreat. And I was brand new. And I'm thinking, I want to be up there. I don't want to work the steps or anything, but I got something to say. I want to give me a microphone. Yeah, I don't want to work steps and get a sponsor and all that. I just want to. Oh, there you are. I just want to. I got something to say. And anyway, I don't know where the hell that came from, but from the heart, maybe. But I didn't know what I was up against, and you guys were suggesting to get a sponsor and get involved in service and get a home group, and I didn't understand what all that stuff meant. I couldn't hear it, but here's the thing, to fast forward, after a while, I started to hear some things that made sense, and one of the things that made sense is I heard somebody breaking down the doctor's opinion one time in a big book study, and they talked about this allergy, the phenomenon of craving, and it hit me like a thunderbolt. I went, oh my God. I have an abnormal reaction. That's why when I say I'm going to go out on Thursday for happy hour, I don't even know what that word means, but because I'm not happy when I'm drinking anymore. It's disgusting. And like the book says, I'm disgustingly antisocial, right? I'm a mess. I'm a caveman. And it's not like martinis and, swirl. What the hell is that? They swirl bang. Let's go downtown. You know what I mean? Boom, because I drink for effect. I still do today. I'll get a cup of coffee. I put a couple ice cubes in it. I don't have. Boom! I still do to this day. I still right. Sharon's like, hell yeah. Yeah, I still do. I still drink for effect. I got to throw it back, man. I don't have time to talk, and so let's go downtown. Wake me up. And right. So I don't know what I'm up against, and I don't understand, but then I start to hear about this phenomenon of craving. I'm like, oh my God, it makes sense. It makes sense why I say I'm going to go out on a Tuesday or a Thursday with the fellas, and I'm just going to have a couple, and I wake up in a trailer park somewhere a month later. It makes sense. It makes sense. So then I'm going around A, and I'm telling I got my little pitch going on, and I'm like, guys, the reason why we drink the way we drink is because we have an allergy to alcohol. I learned something. But the book tells us that's deadly too. The big book tells us that self-knowledge will avail us what? Nada. Isn't that wild? I was informed that I had an allergy to booze and yet still drink. knowing it's going to kill me. Should I tell the horse fence story? All right. She didn't say anything. Should I?
Yes.
All right. You guys know the electrical fences for horses that they keep horses in? So many years ago, we didn't have TikTok when I was a kid. We didn't have anything when I was a kid. But, we didn't have social media. We didn't have Facebook. We had Truth or Dare. You guys remember that? The older heads, the Truth or Dare, right? Well, we had Truth or Dare. And one of the things that, it was like a, I don't know. It doesn't matter what the hell it was. But we had Truth or Dare. And so I'm about, 10 years old, and I'm living in this suburb of Rochester. And my neighbor had these horses next to us fenced in with these really powerful electrical fences. And you just knew you didn't go near them. There was like skull and crossbones and lightning, just danger, die. You're an idiot if you touch this. It ain't going to end well. So as a kid, you're like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere near that. Well. Yep. Yep. You know where the story's going. So because there was a girl there, and I'm 10, so I got a rep to protect. And so we're playing this Truth or Dare, and there's a part in Truth or Dare that's like really the creme de la creme of all. It's called Triple Dog Dare. Yeah. Right? You get felonies over that one. And, Triple Dog Dare. So anyway, to speed it up, I was Triple Dog Dared to go over and grab a hold of this fence. So I did. I went over and grabbed a hold of it. The hair went up like buckwheat, and it was awful. I think I peed a little in it was awful. It was unbelievably awful. And here I am at 55 years old, and to this day I've never needed a sponsor to work the 12 steps, to do a quick spot check inventory to find out if I'll ever touch an electrical fence ever again. Really. I haven't driven down the road, and, I've been in my car looking at a nice sunny day and drove down and looked over the fence and went, maybe it'll be different this time. See, because like the book says, in some areas of my life, willpower works. And let me tell you something. Booze did a lot more goddamn damage than a horse fence, and I went back to it 900 times. And I'll go back to it again, by the way. There's one thing that I like to share is that the drink is still behind the curtain. I hear people say drinking wasn't my problem, and I totally get that, and I heard it this weekend, and I wholeheartedly agree until it is. Until it is. I don't want to ever pretend that I'm sober, I did this, or I have a fatal progressive illness that Chad talked about called alcoholism. And what the first step tells me is it's a promise. I will drink again. It's a death sentence. There's not good news in step one. But the irony is and this is what ended up happening to get into some recovery. Now, what time did I start? 9:30?
Yeah.
Just keep talking.
James, my new sponsor. 9:30ish? 9:40? 9:40? Okay, cool. All right, let's get into recovery. So, I had 7.5 years sober, and I picked up again. And I loved AA. I really did. I started a big book study. I was getting asked to run my mouth around places, and it was just beautiful. It really was. I made a few amends, and and I don't have time to tell the whole story, but I really was in love. I had an experience with the book. I really did. I used to kind of short suit that time that I had, and I don't think that's fair, because I was really excited, and I was really happy, and I really loved you guys, and I really loved that I was sober, and a shift happened. And, but see, there's a lot of promises in the book, a lot of promises, and this is one that's not read in meetings, so I'm going to share it with you guys. And it says, for if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he would not survive the certain, we know what certain is, right? It's coming. Certain trials and low spots ahead. And then he would drink and he would surely die. And with us, it is just, there's no gray area. That's what Bill's kind of saying in that. That's with us, it's just like that. So I don't have time today, but to kind of let you know, I made some amends. I started sponsoring some guys. 10 and 11 were non-existent. I went from step 9 to 12. And again, I'm so glad I did. that relapse happened to be one of my greatest gifts. It's not for some, but it was an amazing gift for me. And so, I go down to New York City. I'm from Rochester. I get a job offer, and I go down to New York City, and I'm sober, but I'm not growing in understanding and effectiveness, right? And it's because my primary purpose became me again. And everything was about me, and I was being driven by this condition again, and I forgot I was sick. The guy that was at podiums talking about sunlight of the Spirit and God, and I'm going to die and lack of power, I forgot. That's how powerful this thing is that I have called alcoholism. Let me stop doing it and moving this. I'll forget this conversation. When they say strange mental blank spot and peculiar mental twist, I'm going to tell you what that looks like in real life, so it's not just words. I'm going to match my own experience up against it. At 7.5 years sober, there wasn't a cloud on the horizon. Just another day. I jumped on the subway. I worked down in the financial district of Manhattan. I got on the subway that day, and it was just another day. I put my suit and tie on just like I'm here, and I went to work that day, and I was a manager for a sales team, and got the coffee at the cart and rode up to the elevators, and I started making my rounds, saying hi to people, and good morning, if there's anything you need, I'll help you. And I rounded the corner. I got to my last employee to check on him, and he was in there divvying up Percocet. Percocet. Now, any normal manager would be like, what in the... Like, they call HR... Right? Like, what do you do? Bro, like, he had like a couple hundred of them. He was like, but wait, there's more. Because that's not the insane part that I'm going to talk about. That's not the insanity. The insanity is what happened to me next. And I had a Jim moment. Jim gets a bad rap in our book. He really does. We get a fucking idiot. Like whiskey and milk. Well, let me tell you my whiskey and milk story, and maybe you can relate. At 7.5 years sober, knowing that I have a physical allergy, knowing intellectually that I'm going to die from a fatal progressive illness, at 7.5 years sober, because I stopped doing AA, I stopped helping others, I lost sight of my primary purpose, I became my primary purpose, and I was working the steps backwards. And what ended up happening is, as I looked at them in a picosecond, I went, how many of those can you get? And you could see like relief, like, oh my God, I'm not going to jail. I'm not getting fired. Like he had all these, he's like, I can get as many as you want. And here's the insanity, and I'm not making any of this up. This is what the insanity that our book is talking about. Because the insanity that they're talking about is going to come to me when I'm stone cold sober. And what the insanity sounded like was this right here. I remember where Jim says, I wasn't thinking too smart. Remember when he says, like, there was like a little, and then the eagle's like, bro, it's on a full stomach. Oh, okay. That's exactly what happened to me. I remember looking at him, and there was like a brief, like, and immediately I went, I have had back surgery in the past. So if I take these proactively, in case if my back hurts, and I went, give them to me. That's where I went insane. So now I'm an alcoholic through and through, so I'm going to tell you the rest of this story. So I took those, and now I'm off. The dragon's awake. The beast is risen. The allergy, the phenomenon of craving it's alive and it's in me. And I'm munching on these things like Pez candy for 3-4 weeks, maybe even a little bit longer. And the insanity that I'm going to describe to you, it gets worse. So we were up in the Upper West Side. We're on the subway going to a customer appointment, and he was sitting down. I was hanging on the railing, and we're going to this appointment. He goes, hey, how about afterwards we stop and we'll go grab a couple cocktails at the bar? I went, dude, I'm sober. I really meant it. I'm not even kidding. I was offended when he said, I'm like, dude, I'm in AA. And I remember what he said. He said, brother, because he was selling them to me, so he knew. He said, brother, I know you can kick my butt and you're my boss. He goes, but I got to be honest with you, man. You're not even in the general zip code of being sober. And I didn't even get mad. It was like a weight had been, it's like, oh my God, now I can drink. And I went to see how the alcoholism hid behind that? In case my back hurts? We laugh, and it's okay to laugh. It is. It's okay to laugh because we're like that passengers of a great ship liner. We survived that shipwreck. I survived that. What happened under the guise of insanity? And under stone cold sober, I went insane. You guys used to talk about insanity. I thought you were talking about all the crazy stuff you did while you're ripping and rolling. No, yeah. Anyway, so we go to the bar and I order a double, I think it was like a gin and tonic or whatever. And I remember throwing it back and he comes up to me and he says, "Hey man, I got some more of those, things in my pocket if you want them." And I wasn't interested at all because now I'm drinking again. See how it got me? And 8 months later, I'm in my apartment, and when the book talks about an alcoholic in his cups as an unlovely creature, it sucks. And I've heard speakers talk about it this weekend. It sucks when you're in so much pain and so much darkness that you just want to kill yourself, and you can't. You can't. That's called the purposelessness existence. It sucks. And it's not a party anymore, and the fun's over, and I'm drinking against my own will, and I'm not eating, and I'm malnourished, and I want to die, and I can't. And looking back now, I realize that if I would have killed myself, I would have killed the wrong guy. I would have killed the wrong self. Whew. And something happened, and Nicoletta talks about this all the time. We always say something. God happened. And under the influence of vodka, I had like an Ebby and Bill moment. I think it's amazing that Bill was having a spiritual experience under the influence of gin. It's amazing. It's amazing. It really is. And Ebby wasn't there to sober up Bill. Ebby was there for his own sobriety. And Bill's like, my gin will outlast his ranting. But he did know ranting. He did know ranting. And what ended up happening is that night I was drinking my cheapest vodka known to man because I don't drink. It's medicine at this point, and I don't want to do it, but I have to because I'm an alcoholic. I drink against my own will, and I have this. I love it too. Somebody I can't remember somebody was talking about they used the word. Come on, man! I'm about to do a power share here, James. Come on. Just kidding. Yeah, kind of. Where was I? Under the influence of vodka, I'm dying, and I'm sad because my only prayer at this point is, God, why do you keep allowing me to wake up? And I steal Nicoletta's line all the time. It's because it's true. She says her roommates were the four horsemen. That was my being. It was my existence. That was the fabric of my existence: terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. And those words don't even quantify it. And I made a call to a gentleman who was actually helped start Fellowship of the Spirit. I called Gary Brown. And may he rest in peace. And well, first, let me tell you what happened. That's something that happened. I took that last sip off the vodka, hopefully, with God's grace, and I stay intact here in Alcoholics Anonymous. And what ended up happening is a prayer traversed across my lips, and what the prayer was, and it didn't come from me. And what the prayer was, I can't do this anymore. That's it. Not I can't do this anymore, but maybe if I find a girlfriend on Craigslist or I can't do this anymore. Look, a couple newcomers are like, I can't do this anymore. Period. That's grace. I didn't do that. That was a divine appointment. And I poured the rest of the vodka out, and I made a phone call, and then the second profound prayer traversed across my lips, and Gary picked up, and I hadn't talked to him in a while. And he said, "Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?" And I cried for the first time, and I said, "I'm dying." And he said, "Okay, well, let's get you some help." And it's amazing how friendly the universe is when that surrender happens. It really is. It's. I did not see the life that I have today. I didn't even see coming. It's unfreaking believable. And my first spot, and so, he didn't know a lot of people in New York City. He knew a couple guys, and one had moved, and then he knew this one guy this guy Adrian, who ended up being my first sponsor, a guy from Belfast, and he said, "Can you make it through the night?" And that's a tough question when you're in that condition. Should I drink? Should I not drink? I don't want to drink. And I didn't. I white-knuckled it all night long. I didn't sleep, and I made it through the next day. And he said he's going to be doing a big book study over at this sober house or whatever it was. If you can make it over there tomorrow night, he said he'll help you. And I went over and I made it through the night. I didn't sleep at all. I was like seeing things crawling on the wall. It was awful. It was awful. But I didn't even think about a drink. It's like the obsession had been removed. I didn't want relief from that. I just said, I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I was in a lot of pain. And I made it over there that night, and I remember walking in, and he was probably from me to Bob away from, he was talking to a guy when I walked in the sober house. I didn't know anybody. It was in Brooklyn, New York. I didn't know anybody. And I walked in, and it was our old sponsor, Donna, Adrian. And his whole deportment had shouted at me that he was a man with a real answer. Couldn't hear what he was talking about. I couldn't hear what he was saying. But that's not a deportment. There was an aura. There was an energy coming off of him that he was a man that had an answer. I didn't know what the question was, but he had an answer. And I made a beeline right up to him, and I cut in between his conversation he was having with this guy, and my self-centeredness wasn't over yet. And I said, I need your help. Can I please talk to you? Gary gave me your number, and he goes, oh, you're the one. And he brought me outside. So he did. He said, I'll be back in a minute. And I'm never going to forget. I hope to God I never forget this. Is he brought me out on this rainy night in Park Slope, New York, February 14th. And he interviewed me like it talks about in chapter 7 to find out if I was an alcoholic. I didn't know he was doing that at the time. He said, well, tell me about your drinking. I'll give you 3-5 minutes. He wanted to hear the relationship with the first drink. And after about 20 seconds, he said, stop. And I went, oh, man, I failed. I really thought that. I'm like, God damn. And he said, you're in big trouble. Guys like you die. And I heard that. But he didn't leave me hanging there. He said, and it just so happens he was an iron worker in New York City. And he got hurt, some scaffolding fell. You good, James? Yeah. All right, brother. Some scaffolding had fallen, and he said, I'm going to be out of work for the next 5 months. He said, I'll tell you what, man, if you're willing to show up here, I say this every time I talk about this event, because this is verbatim what he said. I will alter the course of my life to help you find the happiness you so desperately deserve. That sounds like more than writing your name on the back of a meeting list saying, call me, kid. Our whole book is predicated on that statement that he made to me. Why do we do that? Here you go. You know, now I do it out of respect for the group, right? It's their second tradition, but, and again, I'm not here, I'm really not. It's not a soapbox thing. It's not about, when I had this experience, one of the things that he always, from the preface and the forwards all the way through, all the book is predicated on is helping someone else. Get off the couch, go, inconvenience yourself, go, frantically. The two men set out frantically. It sounds like they kind of meant it. You know what I mean? And now that somehow is morphed into like writing your name on the back of a meeting list and here, call me. That is such a disservice to the man or woman that's dying from alcoholism. Don't do that. What if that would have happened to me? I wouldn't have called. You've been around a lot longer. I put my name on that damn thing 500 times. You know how many people have called me? 1. For cigarettes. I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding. I was fairly new, and some guy called. He goes, "Yeah, I got your name from the off the." I was like, "Yes! I got a pigeon. I got a sponsor. Yes!" And he said, "Yeah, I was wondering if you could bring me some Newports to the." I was like, But anyway, yeah, I just think it's, I don't know, there's something magical that happens when you have this download, this experience from the wisdom of the steps and a sponsor. And that's what this guy did is he said, "Can you be at my house tomorrow at 6:30? And I was there at 15:15 with a mountain bike and a backpack and a new big book and a highlighter. And I was surrendered. And he walked me through this process, and he just showed me what it was. And I'm the guy that's been on for years. I was that, what's that song? Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Do you guys know the chorus to that? I know, I know, I know. That was me in AA for years. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. Man, I'll tell you, some of the most freeing words today is I don't know. I don't know. Talks about that. We agnostics, we threw up our hands and said, we don't know. I don't want to know any. I really don't. I don't. And a sponsee asked me that. He heard me say that at a meeting a few weeks ago, and he said, well, then how do you take people through the book? Right? Because he's from the intellect. Like, what do you mean you don't know? You know, like, how, we, and I didn't even know what the hell to say that. I'm like, that's a good question. But then I thought about it, and it was like, well, I'm not. I'm what everybody talked about here today. And I heard Mark Houston say it years ago. I'm the hollow bone. I don't take you through the book. I just put myself in a position for God to walk you through that book. And that's why it feels so special, doesn't it, when we sit down knee to knee? That's why it says that nothing ensures immunity other than that intensive work. It works when all other measures fail. So this guy that was my first sponsor, he gave me his time. And he showed me what it was like to be a home group member. And I wasn't the I know guy anymore. I was beaten into a state of reasonableness. And I did everything the guy that asked me to do. Not perfectly by any stretch of the imagination, but consistently. Did he say, you know, we all know what's some of the most spiritual words in our fellowship? Get in the car. Get in the car. And I would get in that car. And I didn't want to get in the car. I wanted to stay home and think, you know, and he wouldn't, he wouldn't allow that, you know. He wouldn't say, what are you doing at Friday? He was a good sponsor, was properly armed with the facts about himself. He knew the mind of a newcomer. I would lie even when I didn't want to lie. I would lie even when it served me better to tell the truth. Like, I was just insane. And he would say, I'll be at your stoop at 6:30, be ready. And I did. And I would get in that car, and there'd be 5 other sponsees. We'd all be loaded up and jammed in this little Nissan Sentra, and but it was just amazing. And, and I'm new, and he'd be spending more time with one of my sponsee brothers, and I'd get a resentment, and, why is he laughing at his jokes? And, right? I went through all that newcomer stuff, and, and it was amazing. But what was even more profound is the guy that was in that car, i.e. me and all of us, wasn't the same one that came back across the bridge on the way back from that commitment. It was like the whole energy in the car had changed. We were different. We were touched. We were fed. Part of that, what I quoted earlier from Bill's story, I'm going to share a little bit because of what you had brought up. Casey, I was at a conference a couple weeks ago. I remember speaking in Delaware, and I kept quoting from the first speaker, and I was butchering her name. I was calling her Julie or something. What's her name? What is it? No, not you. Jackie. I kept going, and what Julie said, and Nicoletta finally stands up after like the fifth. She goes, "It's Jackie." Yeah. So I want to make sure I didn't repeat myself again. So, Casey. What you spoke about, and I heard, and so did Caleb, you spoke about it too, about Child Protective Services. I'm going through that right now. And I'm not going to get into details, but you can use your imagination. We're on our second round of probably the worst thing that a man could ever be accused of with his child. But yet, here I am. It's painful. It's sad. It's confusing. I've been wrestling around with questions for 2 plus years. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? We won the first round, and we had some beautiful, forensic people were involved, and the whole nine, the whole deal. And it came out, and thank God the justice system saw the truth, and it was like, rah, God is good. And a few months later, we went to Vancouver, the International. We got back, and I got another phone call. And it was them again saying, we have a new round of allegations. And they took my daughter. And Yeah. Is God good then too? I think so. I think so. Not to the mind. You know, I lost a lot of sleep. It was hard for me to. It's just been a mess. It's been a mess. And as people, you know, there's people in my room that know my daughter, have met my daughter. You know, I call her my guru. Her name's Autumn, and she means everything to me. And I miss her. I get to see her on the weekend, but there was a time I couldn't even see her. We're still in court. A lot of money, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of fear. Remember what I quoted in the beginning? Certain trials and low spots? They're coming. They're coming. And yet I stand up here before you, sad, confused, but eternally grateful. My sponsor said something to me in the midst of this, and he's nursed me through both rounds, and he said, man, thank God we're in AA, huh, brother? Really? You guys have no idea how much it means for me to be here. This is my refuge. I need to be here. I'm able to walk through this. I'm able to face life successfully, and life's not always going to be what the ego and all the preferences that Chad taught. I love when Chad says, I made a deal with my mind, you know. This is good, this is bad, you know, this is, and it's so true as we grow up and I'm still, you know where the most of the pain's actually coming from? The stories around the case. The case hurts. Let's not get it twisted. The allegations are devastating. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy if I had one. Let's not mince words here. But a lot of the pain that I suffer from when I watch this stuff, when I sit back and watch, it's the pain from the narratives and the constructs of how things should or shouldn't be. When in our third step, when it says, God, relieve me of the bondage of self, it's not talking about me. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Self is not me. It's a construct. But I'm not going to get into that right now. We don't have time. And I was at this place where I couldn't understand. I used to be alternate DCM, for Christ's sake. This shouldn't be happening to me. What the hell? But isn't that almost true? You hear with a lot of people that speak. It's like we get sober and we start to get up and running, and we almost fall victim to the illusion like we've risen above the human condition. I've heard it from tons of people I love and care about in AA. Like we're almost shocked when oh my God, I can't believe life happened. I got a home group now. Why did that happen? You know, I got this going on. It's not. It's kind of a subconscious thing. And I'm here to tell you, life's going to show up. And I'll be honest with you, man. You'd have a different speaker here if I wasn't plugged in. You would have a different speaker here. I wouldn't have survived it. I wouldn't have made it. It's hard. It's still so hard. It's hard. I don't want to drink from this cup. I don't. You see, the mind even just said it just now. It's not supposed to be like this. Well, guess what it is? This is raw acceptance, fierce grace. It is happening. And like I've shared before, obviously you guys haven't heard it, but I had like a shift that took place during meditation, and I cried out, why is this happening to me? And after a few minutes, God said, maybe it's not happening to you. Maybe it's just happening. See, when the I claims it, that's when the pain and suffering comes, right? It's happening to me. And God, in His infinite wisdom, says, maybe it's just happening. Maybe it's just happening. So maybe if you've got something going on, it still hurts. Because I get weird. I'll get caught up in spiritually bypassing my humanness too. I'll be like, I'll just go to more meetings. Pick up 8 more guys. Because the ego will use spiritual principles to punk me out and keep me sick and not allow me to feel what I need to feel and navigate and heal and walk through this stuff. It'll say things like that. Grab 3 more commitments. Go. Right? How many guys you sponsor? 493. It's just got to find more. And what this practice says is, how about you just be? Pause. Lean into it. Feel it, witness it, watch it. And that's when the healing really commences. Yeah. I thought I was here to not drink. I really did. And I realized today what I'm here for is I'm here to wake up. And when I wake up from the constructs and the narratives that have been driving me since I was about 5 years old, I get to see life for what it really is. Not always. Don't get it twisted. And when I operate from that condition, I'm able to serve you. I'm able to help you. I can help walk you home, and you help me. Somebody talked about, I can't remember who it was, one of the speakers talked about the gift of sponsors, the sponsees. And it's so funny. We have all heard this, right? When you're new and your sponsor says, you're helping me far greater than I'll ever help you. We've been here. And you think, hey, you liar. You're just saying that to make me feel good. And no, they're not. No, they're not. I got a sponsee. I call him Eeyore. You remember Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh? Always got something going on. Nobody cares. And remember Eeyore? And, so he calls me up. This is in the middle of all of this, and this is truly the gift of self-centeredness from your sponsees. And he calls me up in the middle, and I'm in it. I just got off the call with the attorney, and I'm like, am I going to prison for something I didn't? Am I ever going to see my daughter? Like, man, I was in, and he called me up, and and I saw his name pop up too, and I already gave you his nickname. I was like, and the mind's like, hell no, do not, no. But when you've had an experience through this, it doesn't matter what the mind says. And I just picked up, and I'm like, hey, how you doing, brother? And it was wild because usually sponsees don't ask how you're doing, and that's okay. But he did that. No, they don't. They don't care. But he did. He's like, hey man, how you doing? I'm like, wow. And he said, so I got honest with him. I said, I'm devastated. I'm scared. I almost said his name. I said, I'm scared, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And the prosecutor's office just reached out to my attorney, and I'm like, I want to die. I can't deal with this pain right now. It's unbearable, and Jesus, I feel like, I said, what's going on with you? He said, so anyway, I can't stop watching porn. So, it was perfect. It was perfect. He doesn't care about what I'm like, all right, well, what's going on? And for that, whatever brief moment, it was like, all of a sudden it had shifted. And we were talking about his thing and, well, not his, but it was divine. It was like, it was supposed to call, and it was supposed to not. And I don't mean that sponsees don't care about us. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, but it's that condition of self when they call you up and you got stuff going on, and they're like, my stuff's more important, and that's perfectly, because it gets me out of that self-pity, and it gets me out of that construct and that narrative. It's like, how can I help you? Damn it. And it's perfect. And I understand today why God separated me from alcohol. I know why today. It's not to be sober. It's to take those phone calls. It's to grab that key on Tuesday afternoons and go open up our church for our home group and make coffee. And it's to be here with you fine, beautiful people today. I have had a spiritual experience that I never thought was possible. And what does that really mean at the end of the day? That term is thrown around all the time. And, it gives you the definition. It's a personality change sufficient to, great, yeah. But I'll tell you, for me, what it really is that I can be right here, right now. That's freedom. If I drink again, it's because this moment was too painful. You gave me this moment. You read any spiritual book. How many? Emmett Fox, right? Eckhart Tolle. It's not the power of next Thursday. The power of 6 weeks from now, right? Ram Dass doesn't say be here tomorrow. I think all these great spiritual teachers are really, including Bill, are trying to lead us to the place that I never thought was possible. It's right here. Right now. And that moment's gone. And here comes a new invitation. And here's the thing, I'll end with this. With everything that is going on in my life, all that stuff, when I'm in the moment, in the now, none of that's existent. It's really not. I don't have an ex-wife in that moment. She's not even my daughter in that moment. She's God's daughter. There's no court case. I think the book calls that the fourth dimension. And I never even knew what that meant. What the hell? I'd hear people say that, like, are you here? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm sitting in the meeting. What the hell's he talking about? I'm anywhere but here. And this moment, right here, right now, is all there is. That's all there is. You taught me that. I never in a million years, when Bill talks about utopia, I thought it was like a place. It's here. It's now. And I rarely get to visit it, by the way. I do occasional drive-by. Oh, wow, there goes now. Like, that was cool. But every once in a while I get to feel that, and I get to feel the presence of God and His love. And conferences like this, and places like this, you bring me home. You remind me that everything is okay. And my sponsor, I'm going to end, he said this years ago when I was a newcomer, is he said, I don't know, I had about 3 or 4 weeks sober, and it was on me, and I didn't know what it was at the time, and it was the self, and I called him up, and I said, man, I can't, the sky's falling, all that stuff, it's got me, and and he talked me off the ledge, and he got me back to the moment, and I never forget what he said to me. He said, before I go, he said, I just want to let you know you're not going to be okay. Like, what? He said, yeah, you're not going to be okay. You already are. You already are. And that's what I'm here to tell you. You already are okay. Doesn't mean that we're not going to go through stuff. Doesn't mean that life's not going to show up, because it is. But I think what we really do here in this collective tribe called Alcoholics Anonymous and in this sacred shell, I think ultimately what we really do through all these teachings is to continue to remind each other, whether it's through a handshake, through a step work, through whatever it is, whatever invitation that's out there, I think what we're really ultimately doing is just continuing to remind each other, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. I know it hurts. Let's go. Let's go for a walk. So let's just maybe keep reminding each other that we're all okay. Love you.